Welcome back to the poker vlog. This is episode number 173, and for this one, I play the highest stakes that I've ever played. Yeah, I mean, I played some pretty big stakes before, but that's mostly just for, you know, short sessions, 2 or 3 hours. This one, there are so many big hands, and I play the biggest pots of my life. So I've been excited to share it with you guys for a while. I put an Instagram post about it, and now the time is here to release it. So very excited. Hope you guys enjoy it. Let's go ahead and get started. On my way to Bellagio, they have a 20-40 game. Usually they just have 10-20, and then occasionally they'll have a private game that's 50-100 that isn't open to the public. So this is the biggest game that's really running in town. Never played in it before with $20 and $40 blinds. I've got two 10K bullets that I've got prepared to fire. Hopefully I only need one of them and we can run good right away. Today we're going for it. I'm nervous on the drive to the strip. I've been gradually playing larger and larger stakes, especially over the last year, but this is a big step up for me. The stacks are going to be bigger, the players are going to be better, and the decisions are going to be tougher. I arrived at the poker room and my mind is focused on playing in the high limit area. There's only one table at 20-40 and there's a short list, so I start the day out by buying into the 5-10 game for 1500, which is the max. I take my seat in the must move, then early on I'm dealt pocket 10s in the small blind. Onto the gun opens at 30. What's interesting about this player is that he's the same guy who raised pre-flop when I got boat over boated with pocket 10s in the small blind in the previous 10-20 vlog. The hijack and button called at 30. I call for 25 more. The big blind calls. 5 of us are seeing the flop. It's 10-8-7 with 2 diamonds. We've got 3 10s and 4 opponents on a very connected board. This is an eerily similar hand as the one that I just mentioned that didn't go well for me. I even have one of the same opponents. I check. Unfortunately, so does everyone else. The turn is the queen of spades. That's a good card in terms of helping me get value. Maybe someone has top pair. I can't let this check through again. I bet 120. The big blind folds immediately. The pre-flop raiser might have something like king queen or ace queen. He calls. The hijack and button fold. We're heads up. The river is the 5 of spades. I got a great run out from my particular hand. It's time to extract maximum value. How much would top pair be willing to call once some major draws miss like king jack and diamonds? I choose a sizing of 300. Under the gun is thinking about what to do. I said in the last vlog that he's played some of the biggest games in the world, including in Macau. He's perhaps the best player in the casino, but I'm feeling pretty good about the situation that I'm currently in. The opponent just has to see what I've got. He calls, I turn over the set. It's a winner. We get a lot of value in our first important hand of the session. It's a nice way to begin. I get a seat change, mostly so that I can have a phone charger that works, but it's an added benefit that the good player is on my right. The main reason I'm showing you this clip is because we see Doyle Brunson riding out of Bobby's room. He's obviously a legend. I've read Super System and The Godfather of Poker. The guy's a hero of mine. I don't know how much longer he'll be around for. He's never been on the vlog before. I want to make sure he's able to make an appearance, however small it is, while he's still with us. I ask him as politely as I can if he'd be willing to do a short interview. He responds, "Eat my dust, sucker," as he zooms away on his scooter. Unlucky for me, the audio on the recording doesn't capture any of the conversation. The claw picks us up and moves us to the main game where we've got 10-8 offsuit in the big blind. The small blind opens at 35. I defend, we're heads up. The dealer puts out ace-9-7 rainbow. We've got an open ender. The opponent checks. I doubt he'll have anything too good. I bet 50 is a semi-bluff. Even if I get called, I'm still in position and I'll have outs. The player doesn't think too long before calling. Maybe he has some type of second pair hand like one containing a 9 or possibly something like queens. The turn is the 4 of hearts. The small blind checks again. I keep the pressure on. I bet 120 to fold out everything worse than top pair. The opponent isn't giving up. He calls. It's hard to imagine that he'd play anything this way that's that strong unless he has pocket aces. The river is another 7. The player checks. I've got a ridiculous amount of air. What I also have is 1 bullet left in the chamber and a lot of heart. I fire for
350.
This will really put him to the test. Even if he has ace king, he won't love it since it would mostly be a bluff catcher at this point. I'm repping hands like pocket 7s, pocket 9s, ace 9, ace 7, and 9-7. The opponent isn't folding immediately like I hoped he would with a missed heart or missed straight draw. He apparently has a hand with at least some showdown value. Finally, he lets it go. We get the bluff through to conclude our session at 510. We're up about 1100 before my name is called for the highest stakes that I've ever played.
Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, man. I don't know how long I'm going to play in it, but
That ace 7.
Oh, I had 10-8. 10-8.
Did you have a bluff?
Yeah.
I almost called you with 9 deuce.
I'm glad I didn't get called by 9 deuce. That would have been quite embarrassing. I don't have too much time to think about that though. My mind is on what's ahead. For simplicity reasons, I cash out my 5-10 chips, then I buy into the 20-40 for $10,000. I've never entered a game with more than 5,000 before, and I've only done that a handful of times. What we're about to play is the major leagues. We've got 6,000 in black chips, 2,000 in 20s, and 2 yellow birds. I'm as nervous as I could possibly be. I'd like to win, but the hypotheticals that are mostly going through my head right now are situations in which things go poorly. I'm not playing for amounts that I can easily recover if I lose. I'm about to take a massive shot with a ton on the line. When I sit down, I see several enormous stacks all around the table, including the 1 seed who has about 50K in front of him. I'm not sure sitting here is a great idea, especially since I've gotten coolered by rivered full houses in the last 2 times that I played 10-20, which caused me to book losses in both those sessions. I really don't want to run bad in stakes that are twice as high. This game actually used to be a 10-20 table with a $20 big blind ante, then they added a third mandatory $40 blind and listed it on the Bravo app as 20-40. It's actually larger than a normal 20-40 since there's a $20 big blind ante, so we're basically playing 10-40-40 with occasional $80 straddles. To make things easier, as I'm going through the hands, I'm still going to refer to the third blind player who puts in 40 preflop as the under the gun straddler, even though it's not optional. Right away, I'm dealt pocket queens in the big blind. Under the gun +1, who's first to act, opens to 120. His range should be narrow. I have the third best hand, yet I still don't feel comfortable 3-betting over an early position raiser. He can call and put me in a ton of tough spots. He's a very good pro who knows that I don't normally play these stakes. I call, hoping that this approach doesn't backfire. The flop comes 8-3-3 with 2 hearts. It's about as safe as it gets without making a set. I check to the preflop raiser. He might have something. He down bets to 100. I don't want to scare him off if he has air. He could just be drawing to 3 or even fewer outs. I call the 100. The turn is the 7 of clubs. I'm glad it's an undercard to my high pair. I check. The opponent keeps the heat on. He bets 360. I've under-repped my hand by flatting preflop and on the flop. This has caused me to be flying somewhat blind. I'm probably ahead, but after facing 2 bets, I can't help but wonder if maybe I'm up against a better overpair or maybe even a full house. There's no way that I'm ever folding. I call. I could still be up against a hand like jacks, 10s, or 9s. The river is the jack of clubs. One of those hands we were previously beating is now crushing us. 10-9 suited also got there to make us straight. I check to either induce a bluff from missed hearts or keep the pot small in case I'm up against a better hand. No check back from the opponent. He bets 800. As soon as the bet hits the felt, I grab a chip to make the call. The player has one of the hands that I was hoping he'd have. He shows pocket 10s. I turn over the pocket queens. I have a hand that he definitely didn't think that I had. For him to go 3 streets of value, he must have thought that I had an 8 other than jack 8 suited. Under-repping my hand goes well for the most part. I win a decent pot in the first few minutes at the table. Although, given the exact hand that I was up against, I probably would have won more if I 3-bet or check raise flop. Just like that, I'm already up 1,300 in addition to the 1,100 that I won earlier in 5-10. A few orbits later, we pick up ace-10 offsuit under the gun +1. The table has agreed to do a round of straddles. We're playing 10, 20, 40, 80 with a $20 big blind ante, so there's 170 in the pot before cards are dealt, and I'm the $80 straddler of this hand. The button opens at 220. I call for 140 more. We're heads up out of position. The flop comes 9-8-8 with 2 spades. We've got 2 overs and some backdoor draws. I check it to the preflop raiser. He down bets at 200. I'm getting a good price to peel one off. I call to see if I can improve. The turn is a great card. It's a 10 of spades. We've got top pair and we pick up the ace high flush draw. I check. The button slows down and checks back. I'm pretty confident that I've got the best hand. The river is the 3 of hearts. It's a blank. I don't want this to check through. I bet 480 to get calls from worse hands containing a 9 or a 10. That doesn't happen. The button folds. Not a bad result. Another pot comes our direction. We've got 11,600 in front of us. I'm running good and up 2,700 total on the day. Part of me wants to leave. Not happening though. I've got a nice cushion to play with, and I'm going to ride this out. Here we have jack 8 offsuit in the big blind. I call for 20 more. The under the gun straddler checks. We're heads up out of position. The flop comes ace jack 4 with 2 diamonds. It's good for us since the under the gun player didn't raise preflop. He probably doesn't have an ace. I check. He bets 60. It's a weird bet because there isn't a whole lot that he can have that'll be strong on this board. I have a jack, making jack 4 pretty unlikely. That's one of the only hands that I'm concerned that has me beat. He knows that I won't have many aces, sets, or 2-pair combos since I didn't raise preflop either, so he could just be trying to apply pressure as a bluff. I call. The turn is the 6 of clubs. I check. The opponent increases the bet size to 200. What on earth is he pretending to have? This doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I call again. The river is the 3 of clubs. The diamond draw misses, but some backdoor straights get there. I check. Again, the bet size increases. This time the opponent fires for 600. I don't know what's going on. It seems like the under the gun player is trying to push me around. Maybe he's after me since he's the same guy that I beat earlier with queens. He's bet all 3 streets as if he has a monster. It's not really possible given how this has been played pre-flop. He'd have had to have been bluffing at some point and potentially still is. I call. I'm happy to report our assessment of the situation's correct. We had him beat on the flop, but not on the turn.
6-4. Wow, that's a pretty good turn. This one will make the block.
Make sure you get his mohawk. Is that on the video?
If he's okay with it.
Yeah.
This is Bruno. He turned 2 pair and took me to Value Town. He's a fun dude to play with, but he got me good. With that loss and some other small ones, my stack slowly dwindles back around even for this game when I pick up ace queen of diamonds in the hijack. I open to 120. Onto the gun player calls. We're heads up in position. The flop is king 4 deuce rainbow. We have 1 over and some backdoor draws. Onto the gun checks. There's a good chance that I have the best hand. I down bet to 100 just to get some weaker hands that still have equity to fold. I can continue to fire on future streets if I pick up draws. The opponent calls. He could have a king or maybe he has a medium or small pair. The turn is the queen of clubs. We improve the second pair. Under the gun checks. I no longer need to bluff with my hand. I check back for pot control. I'd like to get to showdown. The river is the 5 of diamonds. Under the gun isn't checking for a 3rd time. He bets 400. He could be turning his hand into some sort of bluff after I check back turn, which definitely showed weakness. I didn't check for pot control just to give up when facing a river bet. I call. We see that the opponent rivered a set of 5s. We get sucked out on again and pay off a large river bet again. There's no more cushion to work with. I'm not winning in this game and I'm actually down a little on the day. There's no time to worry about that. The very next hand I'm dealt king jack suited in middle position. I open to 120. The hijack calls. The cutoff calls. We're going 3 ways to the flop out of position. Comes 9-9-4 with 2 clubs. We've got a flush draw, 2 overs, and a backdoor straight draw. Not too bad. I bet 160. The hijack folds, and I win. At least I thought I did. I forgot Bruno is still in the hand.
Whoa, I'm in here, Brad.
Oh, you are? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The dude has a pretty great laugh. He also has something that he wants to see the turn with. He gathers chips to make the call. It's down to heads up. The dealer puts out the 8 of hearts. We don't improve. I'm a bit concerned that Bruno could have a big hand. I check. Bruno is at least going to rep a big hand. He bets 460. It's kind of a tough spot. There's at least some chance that I'm drawing dead. There's also a chance that I'm up against a better flush draw. There's a chance that I'm up against a worse flush draw too. I call to see a river. The dealer puts out the 3 of clubs to give us the king high flush. We might have been bailed out, or that might have caused us to be in even more pain. I check to Bruno. He's bet 100% of the times that I've checked him so far today. He's not about to stop that trend. He bets 640. That's a reasonable amount. I call. Bruno has queen 9 of diamonds. He flop trips. We've got the winner for a nice pot. That gets us back over the 10K starting stack for this game. This is when Bruno gets asked a question about me filming, and he handles it like a stud.
No, I like this part. No, my favorite part is like, oh, how much did you bet on the flop again? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I actually really like that. I don't mind it at all.
I'm a detailed guy. What can I say? Whether I win or lose, I try to get everything down as accurately as possible. Most professionals understand that vlogs are good to help grow the game. It's especially good for the pros at this table if I can post a vlog of me winning in these stakes. That doesn't mean they're not coming after me though. I pick up king queen suited on the button. I open to 120. The small blind, who's fairly new to the table but has already shown a propensity to be aggressive, particularly pre-flop, 3 bets to 400. My hand is too good to fold. I call for 280 more. We're heads up in position. The dealer puts out 10-9-7 rainbow. We have a gut shot straight draw, 2 overs, and a backdoor flush draw. In addition to that, it's a good flop for my range. The small blind checks. He might only have ace high. I bet 500 to get folds out of those combos. The small blind comes out of nowhere and puts in the check raise to 1500. We're playing fairly deep. It's only 1,000 more for me to call. I'm in position and there are a ton of cards that can improve my hand. I call to see if we can get lucky one time in a massive game. And we don't. The turn is the ace of clubs. It's quite a bad card. To make things worse, the opponent announces that he's all in. This isn't an all-in that you'd see in a smaller game. This is a shove for $8,000. It's over twice the size of the pot. I don't have much of a decision since I only have king high. I fold. I have no idea what the opponent made that play with. All I know is he wins a big hand against me. I'm stuck once again on the day. At least I'm dealt some suited Broadway cards. I've got King Jack of Diamonds in the hijack. Looks so nice. I raised to 120. The big blind is the only customer. We're heads up in position. The dealer puts out ace 10-5, all diamonds. We flop the nuts, and we've got the royal flush redraw. The opponent checks. My hand is almost too strong. 4 of the 5 highest diamonds are all accounted for. There's not a whole lot that I'll be able to get called by on this board. I check back to set the trap. The turn is the 8 of hearts. The big blind might have something, or he could be getting out of line. He bets 320. No more slow playing for me. It's time to make a move. I raise to 1,000. The opponent doesn't look like he wants to fold. Maybe he has a smaller flush, a set, 2 pair, or maybe he just doesn't believe me and has 1 pair. The big blind calls. This has become a large pot. I'm just hoping that we get a clean run out. Instead, the river is the 5 of spades. It pairs the board. I no longer have the nuts. I'm having flashbacks to a session at 10-20 that I recently played in which I flopped a king high flush, someone backdoored a boat, and I doubled them up. That kind of thing doesn't happen that often. I don't necessarily need to be worried about it. The big blind checks. Checking back my hand would be ridiculous. There are a variety of strong but worse hands that can call it bet. I go with my instincts that I'm best, and I make it 2,000 to mostly target smaller flushes, but also some hands like ace 10 and ace 8. The opponent has 4,090 total. There's only one thing that I don't want to hear, and that's... It seems like I've fallen into my own trap. If I call, this is going to be a pot of over $10,000, by far the largest one that I've ever played. I knew it was dangerous betting because with the board pairing, not only could the opponent have improved to have me beat, but I was pretty much only repping flushes with my turn raise after I checked back the flop. Almost never have a full house given how this has been played because I would have bet flop with sets and 2-pair hands. My range is capped. There's a small possibility the big blind is doing this with a worse flush for value. I doubt he'd do this as a bluff, but I guess there's a tiny chance of that as well. I come to the realization that it's only about 2,000 more. I'm getting 4-1, and I can't fold for that price. I guess I call, man. You got it. Yep. I've just gotten so fucked. Goddamn. How much? Backdoor boat again. Happened to me so much lately.
No bet on the flop?
No bet on the flop. Didn't bet on the flop, and I get absolutely punished for it. The big blind has pocket eights for a full house. He turned a set and got there on the river. I had a 97.2% chance of winning on the flop. I get a nightmare run out, and I lose the maximum to get totally annihilated. I have less than 3,000 in my stack. I'm down 7,000 for this game. It's clearly not my day. I'm getting destroyed by the deck. I'm making some bad river calls. I should just go home right now. I don't think that anyone here would blame me. This will be my biggest loss ever if I pick up. Instead, I do something that I wouldn't recommend anyone else do if they were in the same shoes. I pulled out 10,000 more and I doubled down. I'm in for 20,000 total. I once got stuck and added on to be in a game for 8,000. Today, I'm in for 2.5 times that. I've been playing long enough to understand when cards aren't going my way. It has to turn around at some point, but I'm not playing my best. If I get punished once more like I just did, I may not be able to stick around long enough to see the cards change in my favor. I lose a few thousand more over the course of an hour or two. I lost one 3-bet pot with 9s and called a bet on the flop. It wasn't that interesting. How I lost the rest is a blur. It was all small hands, and my mind is still trying to process the boat over flush hand. I'm stuck 10,000 in this game when I pick up King 4 hearts on the button. The cutoff opens at 140. I'm going to be honest. I'm close to the end of my rope here, and money almost doesn't seem important anymore. I see a hand like King 4 suited. I'm in position, completely deflated because I'm down the same amount that first place wins for America's Funniest Home Videos. And King 4 all of a sudden looks pretty damn good. What's another 140 when I'm in the hole for piles anyway? Not necessarily the best way to be thinking about things, but I'm only human. I'm trying to be truthful. I call, which is an action that I'm good at justifying to myself in my head. The small blind 3-bets to 520, so immediately I'm going to get punished for my somewhat light $140 call, right? While the cutoff calls, I'm still in position and getting a good price, so I justify another call. We're going to the flop in a large 3-bet multi-way pot. It's 8-7-5 with 2 diamonds and 1 heart. We've got a gutter, 1 over, and a backdoor flush draw. Small blind bets 800. I don't think that he'll have connected with the board all that often. Once the cutoff and I flat the 3-bet, we'll have a higher concentration of hands in our ranges that'll connect better with low to medium boards like this one. The cutoff calls. I'm getting 4-1 on a call with a hand that isn't that great. There are a lot of cards that can help me improve on the turn though. I call. We're in the midst of a 4K pot. The turn is a miracle 6 of clubs. We drill the low end of the straight, but it's tough to know if we're even good. Small blind checks, the cutoff checks. It's extremely unlikely that either of them would do that with a 9 in their hands unless they had ace-9 or 10-9 of diamonds exactly. I'm not letting another card come off without charging my opponents. I bet 2,700. If I get jammed on, I'm going to throw up. The small blind is contemplating crushing my soul and sending me back to the 2-5 game for the foreseeable future. A full minute goes by before he folds. The cutoff folds without hesitation. We get a key win. This isn't a hand that I'm all that proud of, but I got lucky to drill the gutter, especially since the 6 wasn't a diamond. Still, it's a huge pot that pumps a ton of life into me. The stack is once again at 13,000. I'm feeling reinvigorated, and I'm not leaving until I get every penny back. We pick up Queen 4 suited in the hijack. I open to 120. Cutoff calls. He's been regularly 3-betting me and putting me in difficult spots. I'm sure he's a nice guy away from the table, but he's been annoying to play against, and I've had enough of him. We're heads up and out of position. The flop is 10-9-8 with 2 hearts. We've got a flush draw, gut shot straight draw, and 1 over. Altogether, it's good for us. I bet 200 is a semi-bluff. The player calls without thinking too long about it. If he had a straight, set, or 2-pair hand, he'd probably take more time and possibly would have raised. He probably has a 1-pair type of hand or draw himself. The turn is the deuce of clubs. That's as blank as it gets. I'm not in the frame of mind to hold anything back, and at least one of the queens is accounted for, making it less likely that I'm up against queen jack. I'm going to rep a straight, set, or 2-pair hand. I make nearly a pot-sized bet of 700. The opponent grabs chips and flats again. If he's strong here, he's showing the patience of one of those monks who meditate so long that they turn into a mummy. I really think that he's got a hand with little showdown value at the moment. I'm not sure that I want a heart to come out because a queen high flush could be no good. The river is the 4 of diamonds. We make 4th pair. This is mostly a brick though. I don't want to have to rely on my pair of 4s to win this. I bet 3,000 basically as a complete bluff. It's great to have a queen in my hand. It isn't all that great to have 2 hearts though. The opponent's a good player. He knows that I'm mostly going to have a straight or nothing in this situation. He's only going to have 1 pair a lot of the time. He's staring me down to try and get a read on me. It's incredibly tense when you're sitting there overbetting the pot, hoping to get the largest bluff of your life through while someone's scrutinizing your every move. I'm trying not to think about the potential outcomes. It's impossible not to. This bluff is either going to induce a fold and my stack will be at 14,000, or it's going to fail miserably and I'll have lost 4,000 in this hand for almost no reason. And I'll be stuck a demoralizing 11,000 in this game. My opponent is extremely skeptical, yet he eventually folds. Our massive bluff gets through, resulting in us having an extra 5,000 in our stack that we wouldn't have had if we had gotten called. There's a ton of adrenaline coursing through my body. I still have work to do though. I'm stuck 6,000 and I'm inching my way in the right direction when I pick up pocket queens under the gun +2. Under the gun +1 opens to 120. He's been playing pretty snug. I just flatted with queens pre-flop before when I faced an early position raise. Here I 3-bet to 400. This is going to look super strong. The under the gun straddler is named Ping. He's a great player and great guy. He's assessing the situation and appears to want to get involved in some way. If he called 4-bets after the first 2 players to act raise and 3-bet, he's only going to have hands like aces, kings, and ace-king. Maybe he doesn't even 4-bet ace-king or kings. He calls, which I'm happy to see. Under the gun +1 calls. We're going 3 ways to the flop. I haven't made any sets today in the big game. This would be a great time to hit one. I'm going to need your help to do so. On the count of 3, let's hit that like button for extra run good. Ready? 1, 2, 3. The flop is queen 3 deuce with 2 spades. We have top set and we're in position in a multi-way 3-bet pot while playing for huge amounts of money. I just want to trap this moment in a jar and come back to it when I'm feeling down because this is special for me. The opponent's check. I've got the best possible hand, and I even have backdoor spades to go with it. Now how do I extract the most value when opponents will probably have a lot of hands like middling pocket pairs? I bet 480 to keep one or both opponents in. Under the gun calls, he could have a hand like ace-king or ace-jack of spades. He could also have a hand like jacks. Under the gun +1 folds, it's heads up. Maybe I can get a clean run out this time. Nope. The dealer puts out the 7 of spades. Again, I flop the nuts and I get significantly downgraded in a large pot. 3/4 of the queens are accounted for, so a flush draw seemed like the most likely hand that I would have gotten called by on the flop, especially when the opponent called with another player left to act behind him. Under the gun checks. I doubt a hand like jacks or 10s can call a second barrel, and I don't want to get check raised again. I check back. The river is the 6 of hearts. Realistically doesn't change anything. Under the gun bet's 500. It's a tiny amount that looks a lot like a blocker bet. I don't get the sense that he's doing this with a flush. He's probably doing this to get to showdown with a hand like ace queen of hearts, maybe jacks or 10s. There's a tiny chance that I can get extra value from one of those hands if I raise. It'll probably look bizarre after checking back turn, which could allow me to get called lighter. If I get re-raised, it'll be a disaster though. My instincts are telling me that I have the best hand and I can perhaps make a little extra profit by putting in additional money. I went with my instincts by value betting with the flush and the king-jack hand earlier, and I lost the absolute maximum. That hand swirling in the back of my mind, I have to forget about previous bad outcomes, try to make the best decision I can in the moment. I raised to 1700. The opponent has me beat, he might just ship it in my face. That's been happening to me a lot lately. That doesn't appear to be what's going to occur right now. The player thinks that I might have him beat, but he can't find a fold. He puts his calling chips in front of me as if to say, I know you have the winner. I flip over the set, I imagine it's best. I'm so happy because this win would get my stack up over the 17,000 mark. Ping throws the chips that he initially bet river with over my way too. I'm feeling great. Then I realized that he hasn't returned his cards to the dealer yet. I don't necessarily have the winner.
You're not gonna slow roll me, are you?
Ping is a class act and chose pocket king solely for the poker vlog. He didn't have to do that, and it isn't a common thing to do in high stakes, particularly after a large pot doesn't go your way. Ping had the king of spades, so the turn gave him a total of 10 outs. Luckily for us, he didn't hit one, and my raise on the river made me an extra $1,200. I'm only down about 2,800. It's been an incredible comeback session, and it isn't even close to over. A few orbits later, we pick up king 10 offsuit in the under the gun straddle. The button opens for 120. He's a newer player with a relatively short stack compared to the rest of the table. I defend for 80 more. We're heads up out of position. The flop is king 7-6 with 2 spades. We have top pair, okay kicker, and some backdoor draws. I check. The button puts out a c-bet for 160. Easy decision for me. I call to see what develops. The turn is the jack of diamonds. I check to the aggressor. He slows down and checks back. My sense is that he may have bet flop as a bluff with some backdoor draws, maybe hit a jack on the turn, and wants to get the showdown cheaply. I'll have the best hand a lot of the time. The river is the 3 of hearts. I don't want the button to get to showdown without paying for it. I bet 400 for value to target hands like ace jack, queen jack, and jack 10. The button's thinking about it. He calls. I turn over what I took him to Value Town with. It's good. Some of the other high stakes guys are having fun knowing that I'm filming.
Who's the victim of this one? Jack? Get his unhappy face on the vlog. See ya.
We're on a roll and only down 2,500. Somehow, it feels like I'm up 7,500. Things have completely turned around and I've got pocket aces on the button. The same opponent from the last hand opens to 120 from middle position. I 3-bet to 380 expecting to win without seeing a flop. That might be what happens in an average vlog session, but not today. The opponent 4-bets to 1,200. He has 730 behind. It's tough for me to fathom that this is real life right now. I take a stack of yellow 1K chips and I announce that I'm all in. The player can't really fold anything given the price that he's getting. He calls. We're playing almost a 4K all-in pot, and the opponent asks if I want to run it multiple times. I'm not in the mood for potentially chopping the pot.
Let's go once.
That's right, we're going one time for all of it, and I'm glad we chose once because the flop is ace 8-3 with 2 hearts. We flop the nuts. The turn is the jack of spades. There's nothing to be worried about. The river is the 7 of spades. The only hand that beats me is 10-9 for the straight. That's not what the opponent called a 5-bet shove with. We win our first all-in of the day. It comes at a great time. This is an epic comeback. In this session alone, I went on almost a 12K downswing, which by itself would have been one of the top 5 worst downswings of my life. Usually when it happens, it's spread out over weeks or months, and it takes weeks or months to get all the money back. Somehow we're winning 1,000 on the day due to the 5-10, and we're at least even in the 10-20 session. Actually, we're not quite even in 10-20. Remember that we're in for 2 10K bullets? Well, I get a count, and I kid you not that we have 19,900 in front of us after stacking the opponent. We're 100 short. Now how dumb is it to not walk away when I could have a win on the Bellagio trip locked up, and I could leave the 10-20 table almost completely unscathed after getting torched in a $10,000 hand earlier. It's about as dumb as it gets. Who cares about booking a tiny loss at these stakes if I can cash out for 99.5% of what I bought in for after going through all this stress? The answer is me. I didn't get this far to not book a win. It's over 7 hours into the session, and I'm pushing it to the limit. I just need to win one small pot to finish that journey from the deepest part of Stuckville that I've ever been in, and I hope to never go back there. We get an opportunity to seal the victory with ace-3 offsuit in the big blind. The small blind limps in. I want to isolate him. I raise to 200. Things don't go exactly as planned. The player under the gun calls for 160 more. The small blind calls as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop. It's ace-deuce-deuce rainbow. We probably have the best hand. The small blind checks. Without too much to worry about and a weak kicker, I check for pot control and possibly to induce bluffs. Under the gun takes the bait, betting 220. Small blind folds, I call, we're heads up. The turn is the 7 of clubs. I check, my hand is under repped. It probably looks like I have some kind of medium to large pocket pair. The opponent announces a bet of 500. I don't anticipate him having many deuces except maybe ace deuce of hearts. He shouldn't have big aces either, yet it seems like he's trying to rep a big hand. This feels like a bluff. Maybe the opponent bet with some backdoors and picked up a flush draw. I call. The river is the 6 of spades. I check, hoping he gets checked back. The opponent instead fires for 1700. Oh god, this is a nightmare. I don't have a clue what I'm up against. If I call and lose, I'm going to be down several thousand again. Even if I fold, I'm going to be down quite a bit. Something just feels fishy. I call. Ace 3 is not the winner.
Jack deuce.
Hey, just one more of it. I swear, it's such a
Basically, the conversation.
The player called a $200 pre-flop raise with Jack deuce of hearts. The sickest part is that the opponent says Jack deuce is one of his favorite hands, and that's why he played it. He also wanted to get in the mix against me because he watches the vlog. Well, he made this one, and now I'm feeling like a complete idiot for not only calling the river, but also for not leaving when I was only down $100. Now I'm down 3,000, and I'm completely dejected. I've been playing for 7.5 hours. When I pick up Queen 6 suited in the hijack, I open to 120. The button calls. He's the same opponent from the last hand. We're heads up out of position. The flop comes 10-4 deuce with 2 spades. We've got a flush draw, 1 over, and a backdoor straight draw. I bet 200 to potentially take it down without having to make a hand. The button isn't going to let me. He raises to 600. This isn't a particularly great situation to be in. He could be doing this with some kind of better flush draw than me, like ace 3 or ace 5 of spades. It's only 400 more though. I call. The turn is the 8 of spades. We drill the 3rd nuts. I'm still not sure if it's good. I check to see how the button's going to play this. He's not easing my concerns. He fires for 1300. I guess the button isn't worried at all about the flush draw getting there. I make another call, knowing that I could be drawing completely dead. The river is the 5 of diamonds. I check. This pot has gotten really big. I'm not all that comfortable. I'm even less comfortable when the button fires for $4,000. This is absolutely insane. I have the 3rd nuts, but I feel like I have a bluff catcher. If I call, it'll be a pot of over $12,000. It'll break the record for the biggest pot that I've ever played, which was $10,000 when I lost that one a few hours ago. If I win, I'll be up $3,500 for the session and $4,600 total for the day. If I lose, I'll be in the hole about $9,000 on the session. Nearly every time that I made a big river call, I've been wrong. Somehow I haven't learned my lesson. I just don't have it in me to fold a hand that's this strong, so I brace myself for the bad news one more time, and I put in calling chips. The opponent's quick to turn over Jack deuce of spades for a slightly smaller flush. He might like Jack deuce suited a little too much. He gets totally punished for playing it this time. I have him notched to win by far the largest pot of my life. Excuse the language, but what a fucking wild ride today has been. I didn't think it was going to happen, but I'm all the way out of the hole. This has been the most taxing cash game session that I've ever played. I'm completely mentally drained. I can't possibly express how happy I am to come back from the dead like that and actually have a solid win. I have to give credit to the opponent because he loses a big cooler, but knows this is a huge moment for me, and he's very cool about it.
Same, bro.
Thanks, man.
I've got over 23,000 in front of me. Prior to today, I've never had much more than 10,000 in front of me. I get dealt a few hands more, but I'm mentally checked out and thrilled to leave with a win. That was by far the absolute craziest session that I've ever played in my entire life. Playing 2040, I was in for 10K originally, got coolered, played that hand with the King Jack diamonds poorly. I just knew, I wasn't running particularly well. So I add on for 10K, I'm in for 20K total. The most that I've ever bought in for any game is I think I was in for 8K at one time for some other session that I played. I get stuck 10K at the low point in that game, and then that King 4 of hearts hand, when I call it 3-bet with it, and then somehow hit the gutter for the low end of the straight. That was like this giant turning point for me, and I just went on a tear. I get almost unstuck. I'm down $100, 19,900, and I just don't want to go home. I play a hand where I felt like I under-repped it and lose, you know, like a 6K pot or something. And so I'm stuck 3K at that point, and then I win a 10K pot from the same guy and he had the same hand, and I flush him, and so I win 1,085, I think, in the 5-10 game, and then about 3,400 in the 2040 game. So that was just fucking insane. Just the craziest day that I've ever played a poker in my life, and my heart hurts because there's all this adrenaline and all this stress. There were several points where I felt like I should just go home right now, and I didn't. I stuck it out, and this time it paid off. I thought it was going to be the biggest losing session ever, but worked out.
What a day it's been. I need to unwind. Luckily, Spraggy and Marley are able to join me for a post-game celebration.
Cheers, Brad.
That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like and subscribe buttons. Helps out the channel a ton. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comment section, and I'm happy to get back to you. This was such a fun episode for me to put together. I mean, the session was insane. You can see at the end how much it took out of me, and just like how stressed I was the entire time. And I feel very lucky to have gotten out of there with a win. It could have gone very bad. All right, a couple meetup games coming up. We're going out to Resorts World. It's a brand new casino in Las Vegas. We're doing that August 20th. So we'll be playing 2-5. It starts at 6 p.m. and both Andrew and myself will be there. We'll be having a good time, playing some poker, doing bomb pots, a bunch of other shenanigans. And then September 11th and 12th, we'll be at the Hustler Casino in Los Angeles. So if you're able to make it to either of those events, that'd be great. Hope to see you guys there. All right, good luck at the tables, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.